Welcome, everyone. We are recording the session of Rotary Peace Corps Week through Partnering for Peace on November 22nd, 2023. Thank you all. I'd like to ask you all to put questions in the chat, and please keep yourself on mute while we're doing our presentations until the end. My name is Kim Dixon, and I welcome you all today. I'm president of Partnering for Peace, and I'm an return Peace Corps volunteer from the country of Georgia, and I'm on my way back there, so I'm very excited. Early next week, I can't wait to get back to my country of service. Once you serve, you're always part of it. We are celebrating our connections this week. That's the theme. It has been an ambitious and energetic week where we have talked to the leaders of the of Rotary and Peace Corps, Vice President Pat Merriweather, and former Director Jody Olson of the Peace Corps. They gave a wonderful leadership talk on Tuesday. Alan and Ellen led talk about how clubs and districts are engaging with RPCVs and Peace Corps volunteers now. On Wednesday, we talked about the country directors in Peace Corps and how they're working with Rotary clubs. On Thursday, we talked about successful joint projects and how they got started and how the benefits of joining together. And today, we are talking about Rotary Peace organizational efforts and how RPCVs have supported, led, and even founded some of these organizations. We have a great slate of speakers. So I will just introduce the first one, who is Al Jobitz, who is the founder of the Rotary Action Group for Peace. Al joined Rotary in 1977, a good long time ago, past president of the Rotary Club of Portland, and he founded the Rotary Action Group for Peace, and has been rolling gratefully ever since. He was recognized by the United Way nationally and is also on the National Advisory Board for the Environment and several other things. I won't take time, forgive me for listing them all, Al, but I thank you for really helping me pull this together. Today we'll talk about the Rotary Action Group for Peace, the Peace Builder Clubs, the Rotary E-Club of World Peace, which has been going gangbusters, Peace Fellowship, and then we'll wrap up the week in about 70 minutes or so. So with that, I'll turn it over to Al to make the introductions.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate your organizational talent, your commitment to peace, and the fact that I'm here because of you and Steve Werner, longtime friend Steve, great Peace Corps person and great Rotarian as well. It's a pleasure to be of service in this way. One of my criteria for participating was to have a gender balanced panel. I'd like to introduce you to the panel. That is a commitment I make and was easily agreed to. So whenever we are asked to serve on a panel, please make sure it's gender balanced and you can call yourself a gender champion. I'd like to start with a picture of this man. He is not on the panel. He's at the United Nations today. Already sent me 2 photographs, one in front of Gandhi, one with his newest best friend. And I think he was there yesterday. But Dennis Wong called me in 2011. Out of the blue, totally out of the blue. I answered the phone. He introduced himself as a Rotarian from Connecticut. And he said, have you ever thought about starting an action group for peace? I said, what's an action group? He told me, and the rest is history. And I will talk about Erin Thomas soon because it would not have happened without her. But the overall theme of my comments is that we influence each other. We help each other. We are peace builders together. We do our own thing. And it's really, really important that we connect because you never know when a question leads to an action. And we are all action-oriented human beings. Many of us are Rotarians. Many of us are RPCVs. Many of us are both. It's a perfect marriage, in my opinion. But had it not been for Dennis, I would not have known how to focus my interest in world peace. And so hats off to you, Dennis. I know you're working for peace today at the UN, and I just want to acknowledge that I wouldn't have done my work without you. Here's another peace builder. Our past district governor, same time frame, 2011, 2012, that's a little over a decade ago. And Mike is just a quiet doer. He's a past district governor, which tells you that he is a huge volunteer, committed to Rotary clubs, and coincidentally committed to peace. He was a Peace Corps volunteer. He was conscientious objector during Vietnam. It's remarkable how solid this guy is. And he also is the founder of the concept of Peace Builder Clubs, which is a Rotary Club with a peace committee, basically. And so he is on our panel today, and he has influenced me not only in the subject matter of peace, but also on the golf course. So he's a cool dude. Barbara, I love Barbara. She is just a lifelong peace builder. She co-founded the E-Club for World Peace, which actually was a new concept within Rotary to have essentially a Zoom club. Now, long before the pandemic, they were active, and Barbara's an original founder. She has tremendous connections to the United Nations, and she'll tell you all about that. And she was our most recent chair of the Action Group for Peace. Barbara, and she has her own, like all of us, we have our own little piece of peace. Barbara's is a series of well over 100 podcasts that she does interviewing peace builders around the country and probably beyond. Barbara, great to have you here.
Thank you.
Aaron Thomas, Dennis called me. What did I do next? I called Aaron. Aaron was class 1 Rotary Peace Fellow. She was a true early adopter. We felt really, and that was about 2002, as I recall, class 1 of the Rotary's commitment to peace education at the higher ed level. She landed in Portland, which my hometown, and we felt so lucky for so long that after Dennis called me, I called Aaron, what are you doing? Could you help us become an action group for peace? And so Aaron spent the next a nanosecond or two filling out the application. Rotary took a little longer than that to approve it. And then Aaron became the first executive director of the RAG, and lasted there for at least 3 years before she moved on, but was really foundational in getting us going. Great to have you. And Aaron will be facilitating our conversation today.
You, Al,
so,
and I just
yeah.
wanted to say that the next thing we want to do is hear from Al, because as you mentioned the words piece of peace, which Barbara introduced to us, we've all done these, we've all taken these steps, and these steps have brought together Rotary and peace, and now Peace Corps volunteers into the fold. And so we wanted to hear from you, Al, on those early days, how the concept came about.
The concept of Action Group.
Well, and just what brought you to, and I think, and I'll move on to the next slide.
Well, I'll just say that I was gifted in 1977 to be invited into Rotary, and it was prestigious. I was 33 years old. I was building a business. It was great networking. It brought me downtown to hear what's happening in the city once a week. It was a great connection to life beyond work. And it took me a long time to figure out that Rotary was a peace group, really. Basically, in its DNA, it's all about peace, and has been for 100 years. So I did not invent peace within Rotary. Rotary invented that years and years ago. And so I found a home here, not only for the fellowship and the networking and the service to others, but also to practice peace. And my goal at this point in life is to try to activate Rotary's next step in peace building, to really stand up tall, to brand itself as a global peace organization like none other, and to state publicly and often that violence is not acceptable, that we fellowship and friendship and understanding as a way to peace. That is the big picture. But I ask you each once again to look, when you look in the mirror tonight, tomorrow morning, take a moment, just look there and connect that your piece of peace is huge. It's not trivial. It's not minor. It's not nothing. It is big because you influence others, and together we are a movement. I just want to remind you of the people on this call, this panel are influencers in my life. I know that I got through the bullying period of high school just with a smile on my face. I just smiled at people, and that seemed to keep me out of trouble. So it's as easy as a smile. It's as easy as a phone call like Dennis did. It's as easy as doing a structural connection to peace like Aaron has done. So that's it from me. It's good to have you all on the call. Thank you.
Perfect. And throughout all of this, Mike and Barbara and I will all, the next slide just mentions the Rotary Action Group for Peace. We'll just keep tying in how it fits into the peace building work, how people can be involved in it, and the different areas that we're talking about today. Just to click through the slide really quick, Al had mentioned that that we became a Rotarian Action Group, and I just put some images of other Rotarian Action Groups up there because there's a lot working on a lot of different things. And to understand the Rotary DNA of the areas of focus, this is how we channel our community service work. It's not my favorite image because I actually think peace is the one in the center, right? And in the previous picture, you see the images of how, as Rotarians, we channel our service work, and peace is right there in the center of everything we do. So we'll keep referring back to these things as we talk through different aspects of peace. Al already graciously introduced Mike. The first thing that I wanted Mike to tell us about, because I think it really launched some of Mike's lifelong commitment to peace, was his service as a Peace Corps volunteer.
Well, thank you, Aaron. This is a picture of an Aborigine village in Malaysia. I worked there for a few years in tuberculosis control. Tuberculosis had been pretty much eradicated in the main population areas of the country, but the Aborigines lived inland, and as you can see, rather primitive dwellings. And so we spent a couple of years going out there, giving vaccinations, taking sputum samples, bringing them back to the Aborigine hospital where we were based. When I joined Peace Corps, I joined in 1970. And one of the earliest recollections I remember hearing Peace Corps was a TV ad. And it said something to the effect that, how would you like to have the most difficult job you ever loved? And then it said something about digging latrines for 11 cents an hour. So I guess I figured, well, over a couple of years, 11 cents an hour might add up. But anyway, I put in my application, was surprised that I got accepted, and had an absolutely amazing time there. And it is so true that, you idealistic when you're in college and you want to save the world, and you join something like the Peace Corps, but what we received from the work we did, from the people we worked with, and what we learned from them was so much more than anything we could have ever given. And that stayed with me, well, for the rest of my life. And I've kind of looked at 4 different scenarios of starting out as a Peace Corps volunteer. That picture there is actually, that is a Rotary clinic my club did in Guatemala, in a rural village. We did dental clinics, and I participated in those from 2003 till about 2009.
Sorry, I probably shouldn't have clicked ahead, but
That top picture is Guatemala, and the other one is the Aborigine Hospital in the small village of Gombak, which is about 10 miles outside of the capital city of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. That's where we were based, and then from there we went to different jungle areas and worked with about 16 Aboriginal tribes in the country. But the way I look at through my journey through the Peace Corps, RPCV, Rotarian, and other work in peace towards Rotary, the Peace Corps volunteers have the ability, the vision, and the energy to identify programs and improve the quality of life in the countries, towns, and villages where they serve. Return Peace Corps volunteers have the resources, desire, and energy to assist, empower, and educate people about the ways to help people in the countries in the global south in which they're assigned. Rotary Return Peace Corps volunteers have the additional advantage of having access to an organizational network of Rotary clubs and peace builder clubs that can and have served as catalysts in accomplishing the intended goals, be it polio eradication, access to clean water, education, economic development, the environment, and so on. I have always looked at Rotary as a catalyst that enables so many great programs and projects it engages in to become successful. And then another one, which kind of just came on me over the last few hours, Rotary Peace Fellow RPCVs. And with that, you can get an example of peace builder clubs partnering with other peace builder clubs with assistance from Rotary Peace Fellow RPCVs. Now, an example that comes to mind is my Rotary Club in Newburgh about 3 years ago, right at the beginning of the pandemic. A Rotary Club of Newburgh is a peace builder club. We partnered with the Rotary Club of Kathmandu, Nepal, which is also a peace builder club. And with the assistance of Rotary Peace Fellow RPCV Aaron Thomas, we were able to write a global grant in the amount of about $122,000 with the assistance of fellow peace builder clubs from around the West Coast. And the program was combating violence against women in Nepal. And it consisted of having meetings with women leaders throughout the country, about, I believe it's 20 or 30 at a time, teaching them their rights and how they can protect themselves and stick up for themselves and actually gain prominence in their own country. I think Aaron might touch on this a little bit in the future, but there have been so many opportunities. And like I say, Rotary didn't start polio eradication, but when we jumped in the mid 80s, we kind of took it to another level. Back then, there were about 360,000 cases a year of polio. This year, the number of cases of wild polio virus contracted, you can count on 2 hands, less than 10. So, you know, Rotary is I just see it as a tremendous catalyst in whatever area. In 2017, Peace Builder Clubs started a program was actually encouraged by Al Jubitz and promoted and assisted by Al Jubitz to plant peace poles. And the goal was to plant 150 or 200 peace poles that year. And we exceeded that goal. Peace poles actually started back in 1957 by a survivor of Hiroshima. And he just realized, you know, we've talked about war enough. It's time to talk about peace. So he came up with the peace prayer: "May peace prevail on earth." And peace poles have this prayer in several languages on each pole. And there are over 250,000 peace poles around the world. And Rotary Peace Builder Clubs have, I believe, been a very positive effect in increasing those numbers. So it's just so many instances, so many opportunities, and so many occasions. I was able to attend a peace conference, a Rotary Peace Conference in Beirut, Lebanon in 2018. And after the conference, a friend of mine who was actually born in Iraq and his wife was born in Beirut, we traveled around and visited Rotary clubs, and we told the small Rotary club up in Tripoli, Lebanon, that we had this new project called Peace Builder Clubs, and we didn't know what they were, what their needs were, what their desires were, and if they had an idea, we would love to assist, and left it at that. One of the women said, well, we have this problem with bullying in the schools. And I mentioned to her, we have this program called Peace Village, which is based on teaching students from the 3rd to the 7th grade about different aspects of peace, peace heroes, teaching peace through music, through yoga, through drumming, through just all sorts of different ways. It's a 5-day summer camp. And I mentioned that to them and they listened. And then I went back home to the States. And about 3 weeks later, I received an email from the president of that club and said, we'd like to have a Peace Village. So about a year later, we were able to get the resources with other clubs in our district. We raised about $14,000. We sent the executive director of Peace Village and her assistant to Tripoli, Lebanon. She taught the teachers how to conduct a Peace Village. And they were so happy with the results, they wanted to do 2 the following year and then spread it among the 28 other Rotary clubs in Lebanon to do Peace Villages there. Unfortunately, COVID hit. The Lebanese economy suffered some severe setbacks, and they're still recovering from that. So we're hopeful that this could continue once things straighten out. So those are just a few examples of my thoughts of how Peace Builder clubs and Rotary Rotarians who are returned Peace Corps volunteers and Peace Corps volunteers can work together. And I think the potential is just unlimited.
Those are great examples, Mike. I'm going to click through a couple more slides just so people can see them. These are 2 more from the Guatemala trip that
Right.
it was done by the Newburgh Club, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and I just think it's a great example of a Peace Corps volunteer, you know, being back out there in the world, tying together all these different systems. It's not only these service trips and sponsoring service work in other countries, but it's that idea that a Peace Corps volunteer really knows how to talk about a local needs assessment. And it's not just, that's permeated everything in Rotary. When Mike talked about the global grant that we did to help women leaders in Nepal tackle violence against women issues in their own country, the Rotary grant required that the leaders there identify the solutions, right? It's not that let's just put money into something. It's Rotary International is happy to put money into something. First, clubs come together, and it was over 20 clubs that contributed money to this before we got the matching money from Rotary International. So over 20 clubs had their piece of peace, were really interested and engaged in what women leaders were doing to change their circumstances in their own country. Rotary then partnered with it. And then the Rotary Club of Newburgh stays on board with that grant throughout. And so, you know, the same with these programs in Guatemala and elsewhere. It's that enduring connection. We have this slide that tells more about Peace Builder clubs, which Mike already jumped into. The Rotarian Action Group for Peace on their website has information on how to become a Peace Builder club. Is that the best way to get that information?
Yes, I believe so. And to date, there are over 500 Peace Builder clubs around the world. So it is growing. It's still kind of in its infancy. We started within the last 10 years. Rotary's been around for about 100 and almost 120 years. So we've got a long ways to go, but the future looks bright.
Mike, do you get to gather it all? I'm sorry, Aaron. It's Kim. Do you get to gather it all in a virtual Peace Builder Club convention?
We have, our district has meetings. We have about 36 Peace Builder clubs in our district, and we meet every other month. And we go over what programs, what the clubs are doing, what opportunities are available and opening up. And then we have the last part of the meeting, we have a guest speaker. We've had the Vice President of Rotary International. We've had from our own, Barbara Mueller spoke, and several, Rotary leaders speaking and inspiring us to continue the work we're doing.
And the Rotary Action Group for Peace has global meetings every month for active Rotary Peace Builder clubs. So that's another resource, and that's on our website also and in our newsletter.
And if you look at the way that Rotary adopted its incredible global efforts around polio, they came organically, right? They come from clubs. They come from clubs being interested, and then it moved into a global movement that Rotary International was sponsoring. And I really think that Peace Builder clubs are one of the very foundational pieces of peace work that Rotary clubs can do. Rotary clubs are showing a tremendous interest in adopting the premises of what is a Peace Builder club, how is my club going to do that? And then they're able to network with each other. The Lebanon example was perfect, right? Of how do we do this work? How do we learn from each other? We don't have to start from scratch. And I truly think that we're going to keep seeing Peace Builder clubs growing and growing, and that it's another way returned Peace Corps volunteers that are in Rotary can keep helping us connect to Peace Corps volunteers in the fields who are looking to partner with clubs, because it's a perfect example of how a Rotary Peace Builder club could get some of that work underway. I think now we're ready to move on to our next panelist. And I see there's questions in the chat because I'm sharing my screen. I'm not also in the chat. So if there's anything urgent, I trust that Kim or others will let us know. If not, we are leaving ample time for conversation and questions at the end. Our next panelist, Barbara, again, all these other pieces of peace that will let Peace Corps volunteers and Rotarians know how to engage more holistically around peace. So Barbara, welcome. And I'm going to click into your first slide, and we'll get to hear about all the wonderful work you're doing.
Thank you so much. And I'm really pleased with hearing Mike talk about the Peace Builder clubs, because they're part and parcel of what Rotary Action Group is. We serve as a resource to the 44,000 clubs, 44,000 Rotary clubs around the planet. Just think of the connections that we can make. And the Rotary Action Group is very aware of peace as a foundation. I know our model is service above self, but it's that peace in that service. And we talked about pieces of peace, which I will end my talk with and give you some examples at the end. But every Rotary club that I have spoken to, and I've spoken around the world in person, and I'm a Zoomer from day one. I started the 2016 Rotary E-Club of World Peace right after our World Conference. The Rotary E-Club of World Peace has 100 active peace builders, people who are in the thick and thin of making peace in areas that aren't so peaceful, in countries that have not even become an international city of peace. I mean, simple things that can be done to bring peace into the awareness of your community, into the awareness that peace is our goal. And last night, I had the honor of serving with the United Nations Associations and our Rotary clubs to hold our 7th Peace Prize. Imagine, for 7 years, we have brought our community together on the International Day of Peace to celebrate peace and to honor the local peacemakers. So often everybody talks about the Nobel Peace Prize, but what about the honoring of our local peacemakers? I've always thought if we honored peacemakers as we honor war fighters, wouldn't that be a different world? And so we honor our peacemakers. We honor them, and we put their name on the billboard in front of our movie theaters, not only what's playing, but let's honor our local peacemakers. When we became an international city of peace with Fred Arment, we became number 323. Why? Because we want people in our city. We want our news media, our media. Last night, John Palmentary from our radio station, our TV station, spent the whole evening with us filming these peacemakers, filming the talks that we gave, that United Nations Association. Think about that. the United Nations Association. We work for the local level to introduce them to the United Nations. What's the first thing the United Nations Charter says? To avoid the scourge of war. Think about those words, to avoid the scourge of war.
And
so,
Barbara, are you based in Santa Barbara? Is that right? For the people who don't know.
Santa Barbara,
Yeah.
it's unasb.org. And we represent the tri-counties. As I said, Aaron, there's 220 active United Nations associations just in the United States, and then another 400 around the world. And as I made my talk last night, I had such a memory of my late husband, Dr. Robert Mueller, who said that if we brought peace to everyone's attention one day a year, just one day a year, and he was serving as the Assistant Secretary General for 40 years at the UN. Pathways to Peace, Avon Madison and my late husband created with the General Assembly the International Day of Peace. Now that was supposed to happen on the day of the opening of the General Assembly so that we could stop all wars for one day. I'm not sure that's happening, but I do know that the International Day of Peace has a special place in everyone's September calendar. You can go to a calendar almost anywhere in the world and you will see September 21 is the International Day of Peace. I think Al was talking about little things that can make a big difference. Well, there you go. An International Day of Peace brought to you to make you remember that peace is possible. Now, the Rotary E-Club was something that we founded after the World Peace Conference put on by Rudy Westervelt and with my help in 2016. And I said, well, wait a minute. We're having the conference and a World Peace Conference. Where do we go to connect and to say how we're doing since the conference? So Rotary E-Club of World Peace was born. And I'm going to invite you to join us every Tuesday night on Zoom. And if you'd like to do that, just go to the Rotary E-Club of World Peace and tell Rudy Westervelt you want to be on our panel or you want to come to our speech that evening. It's very interesting how the Rotary E-Club of World Peace has created so many peace partners. It's just that, as I said to you earlier, we talked about our piece of peace, and you look around and you see when you are active in the peace field, as you saw Mike Caruso talking about going to Guatemala. Oh, I love Guatemala. It makes me think of the Rotary E-Club of World Peace and how they all want to go to Costa Rica to go to visit the first University for Peace in Costa Rica, also started by my late husband. You know, the world can move so quickly and so slowly. That's why peace needs to be part of Rotary, because at least we are bringing that to our attention of the people in Rotary and to the people in our communities. Last night at the International Day of Peace award ceremony, Art Fisher came up to me. Art Fisher is in the Rotary Club of Carpinteria. And he said, do you know what? We're a peace builder district now. Thanks to Mike Caruso, we have peace builder districts which fund the peace centers around the world. Think about that. He was so proud and he said, I'm the peace chair. And I said, I will help you with your work because peace is my middle name. And so I'm going to read to you what Brian Farr said. I do a peace community magazine. And Brian Farr said, we may not be responsible for world peace, but you are responsible for your piece of peace. Brian Farr is a past director chair of the Rotary Action Group for Peace. What does that mean, your piece of peace? Is it justice? Is it compassion? Is it belonging? Is it respect? Is it generosity? Is it food? Is it shelter? Each Rotary Club in their own way has a way of bringing peace to the countries, to the community, and to the world. And Al mentioned that I do peacepodcast.org. Once upon a time, we did a World Peace Conference. And we said, how can you get people to think globally? How can you get their awareness up so that they know that we are a human family? separated, not necessarily by borders, and never separated by heart. And somebody said, well, why don't we work on mentorship? Well, the whole conference changed because you can't travel around the world and become a global citizen. Everybody can't be a Peace Corps volunteer, but we can learn from those mentors. So that got me thinking, and I started peacepodcast.org, where I interview peacemakers in the world today, people who have really served the world well, like Jerry and Des Bergdorfer, who have the Visioneers Project in Canada, like Helen Peacock, who started Ending War 101. People who are on the cutting edge of making sure that our world is a world of peace. And with that, just go to peacepodcast.org and pick your mentor and watch and see and learn and talk to me. I believe conversation is the answer to so many of our issues today. And I think it could bring peace. Have that conversation with someone. Even if they don't agree with you and you don't agree with them, stop for a minute. And remember that peace is possible. And you can have that conversation to find out where they're coming from without judgment. That's hard, but I bet you can do it. So peace be with you. And thank you, Erin.
Amazing, Barbara. Thank you. Hearing about each of our pieces of peace, one strand that goes through us that's not getting as much time today, but I just want to point out to everybody that is the strand that runs through all of us, is that we all believe the Rotary Action Group for Peace is a place where peacemakers can come together, right? So you can join the E-Club as a permanent member of World Peace, or as a visitor. You can encourage your Rotary Club to become a Peace Builder Club, work with your district to become a Peace Builder district, global grants, especially in the peace area of focus, which are consistently, we don't have enough applicants in that area of focus. There's so many different ways. And I just want to make a little plug that the Rotary Action Group for Peace is a great way, a great stepping stone to tie in to the whole network. So you can do your own piece of peace, and you can, connect with all these different peacemakers in different ways. I'm going to talk a little about my experience with Rotary, Peace Corps, and peace. And I'm going to start out with my Peace Corps service. But I think that it's even foundational to, like, why was I a Peace Corps volunteer? I would say that I'm going to bring it back to Rotary. When I was in high school, I had the opportunity to be a part of Rotary Youth Leadership Awards program. And the RILA program took me out of my high school, I have 2 high school students and they are narcissists. Like, high school is a crazy time, right? You got to focus on yourself and your world seems so big and important. And Rotary said, hey, if you're a leader, why don't you come over here and think a little bit more about your community, your capacity as a leader, what's happening in the world around you, what's happening with other high school leaders. And it was such a great opportunity to see beyond yourself, right? And it led me to doing things differently. And I studied international development in college. And 2 years after I finished college, I joined the Peace Corps. I see my slide, the picture of Loja is a little blurry, but Loja is in the very south of Ecuador, which is where I served. And Ecuador is in South America, right below Colombia and above Peru. And I was in a town, the 5th largest town in Ecuador is the size of the white circle in my blurry picture. It was a small place, right? Like, 5th largest town isn't a big town. And it was a harrowing 18-hour bus ride from the capital through mountain passes, or a harrowing flight because you had to land straight down. Usually there's a lot of clapping after we landed. I never experienced the not clapping, which I'm very grateful for. But this is Loja. It was a beautiful town in the middle of the mountains. I was an urban youth development volunteer. So I lived in a city. My city wasn't very big, which I'm grateful for, because I got to be in relation with more people, I think, that way than if you're in a really big urban environment. As an urban Peace Corps volunteer, my sponsor, the person that asked for a Peace Corps volunteer was the mayor. And I had a desk in the mayor's office and a phone. I didn't have a computer. It was 1996 to 1998. And so that wasn't one of the things I had. So I'd go in every day and I'd work with the different people in the municipality. The reason they asked me there as a Peace Corps volunteer was because they wanted a zoo. I didn't end up bringing a zoo to Loja. That didn't end up being like part of what Peace Corps volunteers do. I think it's a lot of, but they were really excited. They could get a Peace Corps volunteer who knew how the world worked and could get them a zoo. And instead we did a lot of like base needs analysis and went out to the rural barrios around the town and what do people need? And we decided to build libraries. And there was a central library in Loja, but Loja was big. I mean, it was a big province. And the municipality served the province. And how do you get books? Not everybody comes into the center of town all the time. So we built these lending libraries out in the smaller areas around town. And the people in Loja, Ecuador, are Saragurans. That's the name of the like ethnicity of, it's a, very indigenous, protected area where there's not a lot of outside influence. And the Saragurans wear these hats that are made of pressed paper and painted to have the cow image. And this person right here, she was 9 when I was a Peace Corps volunteer, and now she's a financial advisor in Loja. And we can stay in touch through Facebook and the other things. And so Peace Corps sent me, on this whole lifelong commitment to what do people need? It's not what we bring in and say that they need. It's not even what your mayor identifies that a zoo would be like super cool, but it's what does your town need and how do you learn how to ask the right questions? And I feel really lucky that that's been my career since that time. So after I came back from the Peace Corps, I worked in Washington, D.C. I worked for nonprofits and development organizations. And when 9/11 happened, I worked kitty corner to the White House. And it was terrifying, right? Like we evacuated and we had to figure out what just happened to our country. And the question that I didn't see anybody being able to ask was, what's our place in this? What did the US do, like in dialogue with the world to become this hated, right? Because there's a part of that, and there was no analysis of that. It was patriotism and recovering as a people because we'd been grievously injured, and all of that was really important too. But where was our place in the world at that moment, and how could I learn more about it, not from a US perspective? Well, somebody I was in the Peace Corps with, who moved back to Kansas City, Missouri, and became a police officer, called me. And he said, listen, I'm in Rotary, and Rotary is starting this program called the Rotary Peace Fellowship. And we don't even know how to get people to apply for it. It's really hard for us to understand as Rotarians, but we've got to start with Peace Corps volunteers. That's what we got to do, because people who could become a part of making this fellowship work as the US participants. This is a global fellowship. You are not meant to be in a classroom with a bunch of other people from the US. You're meant to be the person from where you're from in collaboration with people from all over the world. So you get those perspectives. And I said, Matt, this is perfect, because right now I'm really struggling just on a personal level to say, how do I understand what the US looks like from the outside? And so I applied to become a Rotary Peace Fellow. It was the first year I lived in Washington, D.C. And I could not get a club in the Washington, D.C. area, which has vibrant, fantastic clubs, to sponsor my fellowship. They did not know what it was, and they did not think it was something they did. So I called my RILA mentor back in San Diego, California, and I said, would your club consider doing this? And he said, yeah, not only would we consider doing this, we already have one other applicant. We're interviewing her in 2 weeks. It wouldn't be fair to her to ask her to wait. So can you do your application? By the way, it needs to be not just in English, that the application for the Rotary Peace Fellowship needs to be in the language of the country you're applying to study in, which in my case, I wanted to study in Argentina. So I pulled together really quickly a application to be a part of that interview process. Flights were really inexpensive because it was post 9/11. I mean, it was within a month. I interviewed within that month. I interviewed at the end of September. So it was like weeks after 9/11 happened, right? It might have been early October. Now that I say that I digress. Flew out to San Diego, and the club that I interviewed with and the district that I interviewed with really liked both of us as candidates, and they contacted a district to the north of them and said, would you consider also sponsoring a Rotary Peace Fellowship? So the other woman and I were both selected as Peace Fellows in Class 1, and it was an amazing experience. Again, you're sitting in a class of, just to describe my Rotary Peace experience, you arrive in Argentina, there's 10 of you in your master's degree program. You're not with other people from the United States. It's a very diverse cohort. I had people from mainly all over Latin America because it was a Spanish speaking program, but we also had people from Europe and one from Asia. And you learn very quickly as a US perspective that everything you learned about how you see the United States is viewed differently in these different lenses. It's viewed differently in Brazil than it's viewed in Norway, right? And so super valuable information. Our class of 10 Rotary Peace Fellows was situated in a master's degree program that had a cohort of people from the militaries of Uruguay, Brazil, and Argentina who were also studying peace. So there are 3 militaries selected senior level military leaders to be a part of this master's program. So we were in a classroom of about 30 people for a 2-year master's degree experience in peace and conflict resolution. And it was just life-changing. There's nothing more that can be said about the way we all operate, the way my cohort is still in close contact and relies on each other for career and personal growth. And information, and the same with our military counterparts. It was so valuable to say that we were all going to look at the world together and pull it apart and decide what the world ought to look like, instead of all the viewpoints and lenses that we brought ourselves. Rotary is committed to selecting Peace Fellows from very diverse places around the world. I've been involved as a Rotarian and as a volunteer for Rotary International on some future visioning for the Rotary Peace Fellowship with the Board of Trustees. What should it look like? And not everybody who's a peace builder is going to be able to take 2 years off to do a master's degree, even though it's fully funded. It's not the right opportunity for everybody. So now we also have the professional development certificates. Right now, the 2 places you can study for professional development certificates are in Thailand and Uganda, but that's expanding. That's something that Rotary is committed to expanding. And so you have the 2-year master's degree experiences, and then you have the professional development experience, which is in person together as a cohort for 3 months. Our cohorts tend to be more diverse in the people that can take 3 months off of work and come together, older. People who are more experienced in their career, and equally transformational. And they spend that year in a learning cohort. So they're not just together for 3 months. They come back to their careers. They come back into what they're doing, and they bring what they learned, and they do projects that kind of transform their career. So it's an amazing experience. And, I just wanted to tie the thing. We have plenty of time for conversation and questions on how to tie this all together. But as agents of peace, there's so many different ways we can go about it. We go about it through the Rotary Action Group of Peace. That's a launching place. We go about it through our own clubs, being a part of RILA, bringing in young people, bringing in people who apply for the fellowship, and making sure those right candidates are brought forward and championed. That's how you become a Peace Fellow, is because a Rotary Club believed in you and in your ability to do that. Rotary asks for you to also bring that back to your community. It doesn't mean that you always go back to where your fellowship was from. I ended up in Portland, Oregon. My first phone call was from Al Juvitz. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for being a Peace Fellow. Now, how will we tie this in back on this local level? How will we work with returned Peace Corps volunteers and make a difference? And so I think that's our job today, is to talk further about how we can become these agents of peace together with Peace Corps. In other seminars this week for Peace Corps, with the Partnering for Peace, there was really the discussions of these projects. If you are a Peace Corps volunteer serving right now, wherever you are, if I could have worked with a Rotary Club, it would have changed how fast I could have gotten the information I needed, how quickly I could have gotten connected and activated into that work, right? It would have given me resources and perspectives that I didn't have. And so it's so cool that we could do those things together. We're going to pivot for a moment, because part of Peace Corps Week is talking about our third goal as returned Peace Corps volunteers. And we're lucky to have the director of the Office of the Third Goal of us, RPCVs, here with us. Andrew, thank you for joining us. Andrew's been out here in Portland and Seattle this week, doing that work, digging in deep with local groups of how do we send people off? How do we welcome people back? How do we connect with Rotary? So Andrew, we'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erin. And you can't tell from my background right now, and you probably don't want to see my hotel room, but I am in Portland right now, and I'm looking out at the city, and it's been wonderful to be in the Pacific Northwest this week. And moreover, it's been really truly an honor to be here today and to have the opportunity to listen to the really inspiring work from everybody in this panel and the collective efforts to promote world peace, really in so many different ways. And as we get, and probably somewhat sadly for some of the folks here, towards the end of Peace Corps Rotary Week, I certainly need to give thanks to all the panelists and attendees who participated in the amazing events, with a special shout out, and Erin alluded to this, Partnering for Peace, and certainly Peace Corps' Office of Strategic Partnerships for their tireless and often behind the scenes efforts to strengthen the connections between Peace Corps and Rotary. So my work at Peace Corps actually covers two areas. So it covers Peace Corps' third goal, which I'll talk about in a second, and support services for returned volunteers. And for both of these areas, I really see the connection to Rotary to being incredibly strong. So with respect to returned volunteer services, as volunteers transition from Peace Corps, Rotary can be so helpful with finding that all-important network of social connections and community back here at home. And for third goal, we typically talk about Peace Corps' third goal as telling stories and sharing information about the people and countries where volunteers serve, so that Americans are better informed about the world. As it's through each other that we build these foundations for peace. But the real value of third goal is through action. It is individuals continuing to use what they learned during their Peace Corps experience for lifelong service and lifelong impact, and of course, the promotion of world peace. It's about building bridges between people and resources, often across wide gaps in space and background and experiences. It is about putting our values into action, and by doing so, inspiring the next generation to do even better and to create a more peaceful world. And leveraging the synergy between our organizations has really been never more important. As Peace Corps ramps up its efforts to get our volunteers back in the field, where we have incredibly high demand from our partner countries, we need individuals that can inspire through their work and their actions the next generations to serve. As mentioned, I've been in the Pacific Northwest for a week, and I've met a number of RPCV Rotarians, Rotary Peace Fellows, and actually there's a send-off event last night here in Portland. I met a young woman who's going to Indonesia. Actually, this Monday, she's going to Indonesia. And speaking with her mother, I learned that they are Rotarians, and it was a Rotary-sponsored trip for her daughter that actually inspired her to join the Peace Corps, which was incredible. It was a wonderful story. And as Rotary can inspire new volunteers to service, it also plays a pivotal role in helping RPCVs continue their service in communities here in the U.S. And also in the countries and communities where they served around the world. Rotary can help integrate RPCVs into new communities as they return, and can provide the support and connections necessary to help maximize the impact of the skills, experience, and perspectives gained as a volunteer. So beginning next March, we will start to have the first waves of returning volunteers that return to service following the COVID-related global evacuation of volunteers. These individuals will be coming back inspired by their service and looking for new opportunities to serve, but they will also need support. They will need help with reintegration and finding new communities where they can live and work. And I see Rotary as an essential element to that reintegration effort. And so I just want to wrap up by saying that it becomes clearer to me every day what a wonderful overlap there is between the goals of the Peace Corps and Rotary, and that Peace Corps' third goal is really a true embodiment of Rotary's motto of service before self. And finally, I must give, obviously a sincere thanks, not just the folks that have been on the panels today and the attendees, but all the Rotarians and the return volunteers for the work that you do at home and around the world each and every day to further the goals of Rotary and Peace Corps and to make a more peaceful and better world. So thank you all so much. It's been wonderful being here today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew. I do have some questions, Erin. Shall
And,
we continue with the questions?
I think I'm just going to make a proposal because we are, we've talked a lot already. I was going to make a proposal that we click through the final slide so we can see each other as we're chatting about questions. And do you mind that, Kim? And then we'll stop the screen sharing.
No, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
You know,
I just,
yeah, go ahead.
I'll just real briefly, just wanted to thank everybody that's been participating in the week. As you know, Fred Cowan was the coordinator for the week. Thank you, Fred. Ted Adams, by the way, is on the call today. And thank you, Ted, you are our Peace Corps liaison. Ruta and Alan both are on the call, and Steve, they're on our board. Rudy Westervelt, we've never met, but I know that I love you. Ron Smith is on the call. He's with the Rotary E-Club of World Educators, of Peace Educators, I'm sorry. And Ron, Barbara wants to meet you. So I put her email in the chat for you to connect. The peace polls someone asked about, and those are polls, P-O-L-E-S. And I just found out at my college reunion this year that St. Bonaventure even has one. So they really are all over the world. Also wanted to thank Al Kuzanaki, who's on the call, who was ran Tuesday session, Charlie that ran Wednesdays, Chantel that ran Thursdays, Terrence Stevenson and Ed and Dayar, who were our communication people for the week, and Carrie Golden, who was the Rotary International liaison and been doing a fabulous job. So thank you all. And just pop on the next slide. This is just on our website. I would encourage you to look at our YouTube channel from last year and this year. Last year we had Chick Dumbach on and Peter Kyle and talked more about peace and the history of it within Peace Corps and Rotary. I noticed Tom Baker's on the call today. Thank you. And Ending War 101, which Barbara, I'm surprised you didn't put a plug in for that, but I think a lot of us know about that. But really, pull that one up. And on the website, on the right-hand side, are specific ways that each of you can reach out across the, I won't say the aisle, but across the void here of organizations to support the other side. And then finally, just to net it out, the next slide is whatever you're doing with Rotary and Peace Corps, take a picture, write a story, send it in to us and repeat. That's really all we're doing, celebrating our connections and demonstrating it so other people learn from us and can move forward in more easily. Just like Erin was saying, you know, the first Peace Fellow was a struggle, but you know, after the 50th, you know, it's a lot easier. So please, you know, help us by doing good work and then telling us about it. And now we'll go to questions, if that's okay. I've got us all spotlighted. Great. And Andrew as well. Thank you all. I had a really good question from May. Let me pull it up again. May had a really good point that she said, the conflict of peace may have different connotations or definitions to different people and how to achieve it. what is Rotary's definition and approach to peace? I know we would all say, well, it depends on where you're coming from and how to apply, but maybe each of you might be able to expand on that a little bit, or those that want to.
Well, that's why we founded the Rotary E-Club of World Peace, because we knew Rotary had that opportunity to be the thread for every idea about peace. But if it was going to work, we needed to have world peace, because we can't have factions that don't work. And so together, I want to say, work together. The Rotary Action Group for Peace believes that peace is individual. And I go right back to this old saying, it begins with me and the conversations I'm having. After interviewing over 300 people, because I did all the speakers for the 2016 World Peace Conference, and they all said the same thing. It begins with me. Everywhere I am, no matter what I do, peace is possible.
I would jump
Perfect.
in and say that something that Al and Mike and I have experienced a lot in Oregon is sometimes you bring the word peace into a club, Mike's club being one of them, where people have real questions about, is that the right word that we're using here? And when you bring forward a Peace Corps volunteer or one of your Rotary Exchange students or a returned Peace Corps fellow, when we talk about our piece of peace, like what we're doing that we believe is peace work, and it is peace work, it changes it. It's sure, you might have somebody who's out there working on like the purest definition of like achieving peace between countries. But my piece of peace right now is I'm the chief of staff for Habitat for Humanity in Portland, Oregon. The number one justice issue right now in Portland is housing. It is it's such a difficult issue, and it is working on peace to work on what is justice, what is, how do we serve people in our community? And then that's the way that I can talk to the person in Mike's Rotary Club who stands up and says, what do you mean peace? And I say, that bullying program that your Rotary Club's doing, that's peace. Like, what your Rotary Club is working in peace right now.
Perfect, Erin. And also I might mention, I'm sure one of you would have, the Institute for Economics and Peace, which is so fabulous. And it's my next initiative to become a peace ambassador there. They talk about the 8 pillars of positive peace. So everything from, fair and equal respect for one another to, open media. There's 8 pillars, but look it up, IEP, it's excellent. So that's another whole definition of peace, but positive peace, not lack of war, but positive peace. It's really, really fabulous. I had one question here. And I think Erin, you've already responded to this, so maybe I'll ask Mike directly. Mike, can you share how your Peace Corps experience led you to want to continue to serve, and how you found that with Rotary? And you had a kind of a different pathway. You didn't join Rotary till later in your life. Is that correct?
Well, that's correct. And actually, my daughter, who is a veterinarian, was my sponsor. So usually it's parents talking their children into joining Rotary, and had the opposite experience. But the Peace Corps experience really opened my mind to, well, I lived for 3 years in a Muslim country. And so, close to 40% of the population, 45% was Muslim. Then there was also a large Buddhist population. And then 10% of the country was Indian. So you had the Hindu population. So I learned an appreciation for other cultures, other religions, other thought processes. And when the opportunity to join Rotary came about, I looked at it, and I saw that it had in its objects of Rotary the advancement of world understanding, goodwill, and peace through a fellowship of business and professional leaders. And so I thought I would explore that. And I've really seen that develop over the years, because when I first got involved with Rotary, I, of course, went through the chairs of my club and then went through the district chairs and got selected to be a district governor. And there's a process there where you spend a week in January. All of the incoming district governors, there's 530 some districts around the world. And so you share what you're going to be doing with your club, how your district operates and whatnot. And I mentioned that we were going to have a peace conference at the end of our year. And I was looked on like, well, this guy just doesn't get Rotary. He doesn't understand Rotary. Peace, we don't do peace conference. I don't know. So anyway, 2 years later, peace became one of the prime areas of focus of Rotary. And in other words, if you wanted to access the funds of Rotary International for a project, you had to have one of the areas of focus: water and sanitation, disease prevention, economic wherewithal for communities, and peace and conflict resolution. So from just like 2 years, people are telling me I'm nuts for having a peace conference. And then now peace is as an area of focus. And the same thing happened with the environment. In 2016, I was at a conference and Rotary said they wanted nothing to do with the environment. We're not going to do anything until we get rid of polio. 2 years later, the environment was added as an area of focus. So those things happen, not only from the bottom up, which is a great way that things happen from the club level, but also sometimes from the top down.
Great, a great point. Any other questions? We've had some really good comments in the chat, so I would encourage you to check that out. And May, I thank you and appreciate your thoughts and comments. Rotary's Positive Peace Academy. We can check out the Rotary E-Club of World Peace is inviting you to meetings. Let's see, worldbeyondwar.org/endingwar101 is in the chat, which is everyone's. Thank you, Barbara, for putting that up behind you. So many great comments, and everyone
we have a hand up there from Desmond.
Is there one? You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, it's actually Jerry wants to make a comment.
First of all, I would like to congratulate you on the most incredible organization, and I can see how many years it took to build what you have. The Visioneers is about to enter its first year of operation, and there are so many points of synergy with your peace education and your peace partnership that I'd like to talk about. But one of the things that we are doing is a new initiative called Waging Peace, Building Humanity's Golden Peace, where we have a comprehensive definition of what the golden peace is. And we have built and are in the process, probably in a week or two, it'll be up, a new course in global citizenship for youth, and particularly for schools. And we are starting our pilot study of this. This is a high school leaving course that is being piloted as a university entrance credential for our universities. And the Council of Ministers of Education of Canada has declared global citizenship as the new competency, the sixth one for all high school leaving students. And so a curriculum for this is very important. We are offering this curriculum as a gift to anyone who is working in an area that could sponsor a school to take this course and start it. And everything will be right on the websites for people who are involved. We're starting our pilot studies with several schools in January. And what it is very interesting because it takes off where other things have initiated. So Barbara was talking about how important it is to begin peace in yourself, of course, otherwise you wouldn't be in this conversation. The other thing that's important is conversation. And we see conversations all over the world. But there are two next areas that are very important, which the Council of Ministers of Canada have declared. We need to be able to think, to use secondary and tertiary thinking skills in the area of global citizenship in order to get action all over. And you guys are doing so much action that is very, very exciting for us. We have on our website something called the Wall of Stories. And I noticed.
Can I interject that probably one of the best things we could do is get all of these links from you, right? And I think this is a great example of so many people on this call would utilize and co-collaborate and share on these, different programs that all the different people are working on. And so just want to make sure that that's something that you could share, and that through the Rotarian Action Group for Peace and Partnering for Peace, that information could then be shared out further.
Yeah, we've already put the website on the chat and Jerry's contact email.
And
Great.
Barbara is your contact person. She's a leader in the Visioneers Project and has been right from the beginning. We should say that that the curriculum honors 10 world-class mentors in global citizenship, and Robert Mueller is one of them. And you probably will recognize people like Jane Goodall and others who have volunteered their services to teach the young people about global citizenship. This is a very exciting gift for the world, which we would like to share. We're now sending this to leaders in 62 countries. We're building strategic alliances with organizations like yours. We'd be very excited.
I'm going to get some different shoes.
Somebody's unmuted. I know that we have one other hand up, and I didn't want to miss the opportunity to see if Sala had something before people. I know people are jumping off soon.
We have one more
I
minute.
just, I already got the answer that it has been recorded, but all the contacts, etc., if you could tell me where I could find that in the future, because there's a lot of information from this week.
Molly, we'll be putting the chat on our website as well as the recordings. Is that correct?
Thank you.
Molly?
Thank you for the
Okay.
whole week.
Yep, it is. Sorry.
Oh, great. All right. And
Often
the whole
people
week will
don't
be
know
on
how
our-
to
it'll
save
be
the
on our-
chat. Just go to those three little dots at the bottom of the chat, and you will be able to save that after you click on it. So I know many of you want to contact each other, and I thank you so much for putting information about the Rotary Action Group for Peace, the Rotary E-Club of World Peace. So click on those three buttons and then go down the menu and save chat. Thank you. I want to thank Al. You know, Al may have listened to this, but Al, you have this way about you that makes us all feel we can bring peace to the world. And Al, you're just like, I'm going to call you Saint Al for want of a better name, because you just bestow blessings on everything you touch.
Yes.
And may I just say, on behalf of Partnering for Peace, we wouldn't be here without you.
Oh,
Thank you, Barbara and Kim and Steve and everybody on the call. We are building peace one day at a time, one smile at a time, one action at a time. And I think the world has changed in the past decade. It's people are wanting it more and more and more. So please do something every day. It doesn't have to be a lot, but it matters.
And Al, I thank you for really pulling all for these people together. It was your leadership that did that. And Steve Werner, who was on the call, there he is, who helped me connect with you. So so we're a big team of thank you here, and it's such great work. I'm just honored to be peripherally connected with all of you. So it is our time, and we were up. I'm going to save the recording now. And I thank you all for a great day, a great week. Carrie, Ted, Andrew, everybody. This has just been an honor. So thank you all. Go in peace.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kim. Thanks for championing Peace Corps connections. It's awesome.